Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex and today we're going to talk about my top favorite thrillers. So I opened up my Goodreads platform that I use to keep track of all my books and everything, and I picked out all the thrillers that I had rated 5 stars, and then I narrowed it down to my favorite out of those. And let me tell you, it's a really small group. I apparently am very stingy with my 5 stars. Basically, the book just has to be amazing. And thrillers, I judge very harshly. If there's even like the slightest bit of criticism from me, I won't give it the 5 stars. Like, apparently. And I'm just now realizing that when I looked at how many books I've given 5 stars, and it's honestly not that many. So, with thrillers, I mean, it has to be extremely entertaining for me to read. The pace has to be good. The characters have to be good. The arcs have to be complete. There has to be a really good twist that I didn't predict or see coming. And most importantly, there cannot be any loose ends at the end of the book. Like, there cannot be any questions for me. I want to be completely satisfied when I finish the book with no loose ends and everything settled. So that's probably why a lot of my thrillers don't get the 5-star rating, because a lot of them do end up having loose ends at the end. So I've narrowed it down to my top 5 favorite thrillers, and then I have a couple of honorable mentions that I'll do towards the end. So let's get started. Okay, so this is in no particular order. Because I gave them all 5 stars, I like them all pretty equally, and I just kind of jotted them down. So they're not in any specific order. These are just my top 5. And we're going to start with Heartsick by Chelsea Kane. I have read 4 out of 6 of the books in this series. This is the Gretchen Lowell and Archie Sheridan serial killer thriller series. Wow. In this book, we meet Gretchen Lowell, who is a female serial killer, and we meet Archie Sheridan, who was the detective that was assigned to the task force they developed to capture her. And everything about this series is wonderful to me. I mean, first of all, we have a female serial killer, which, you know, lady power, whatever. And we have Archie, who is just, you know, this headstrong detective that is just dedicated to catching this killer. They call her the beauty killer. It's the beauty killer case because she basically swoons men and, you know, very brutally murders them. The amount of detail that Chelsea Kane can go into to describe these crime scenes, to me, is just phenomenal. Like, I am a details person, and if it says it's graphic and it's not detailed enough for me, I don't like it. Chelsea Kane does an amazing job. And this whole time we're reading this book, we realize how much toll this case actually took on Archie. Like, it ruined his marriage, it ruined his life. Like, the way that Gretchen Lowell just dug into him like a tick and just completely captured every essence of him. This series is so great, and I haven't finished it yet. My only complaint is book 4 for me really fell flat, but that was the first book out of the 4 that I read that I didn't like. The other 3 have been completely amazing. I highly recommend this series, especially if you like serial killer thrillers. This is so great. The dynamic between Archie and Gretchen is chef's kiss, okay? And then we have a whole bank of side characters that are also equally phenomenal. I mean, she's very creative with her side characters, and I love that. So I highly recommend this series. This is definitely one of my favorite thriller books. Okay, so originally I had Gone Girl on my list, but I feel like everyone's read that, and I did really like that book. I'm gonna do a comparison post on the book and the movie because it needs to be done. But as I sat there and thought about it, I was like, you know, I really liked Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn a lot better. It just really delivered. I did not see the twist. It really blew me away. So if you don't know about Sharp Objects, basically this woman, Camille, has just gotten out of like a psych ward basically, and she's sent to investigate a string of murders in her hometown. From her hometown, from her mother, she has a lot of trauma that she's tried very hard to repress and deal with, but you know, she's basically unsuccessful. So she gets there and it all feels just very reminiscent of her time there, and she basically starts a downward spiral. And then she has her mother there that's adding a lot of stress, and then she has a half sister that's also adding a lot of stress to her life. The pace of this book was really, really great. The trauma that was written in this book was really great. I mean, apparently trauma is like the thing I like to read about. I probably need therapy, most definitely. So I really liked this book. The ending got me. Couldn't have predicted that. And just the twistedness of this book got me more than Gone Girl. Like, Gone Girl was twisted and messed up. This was more twisted and more messed up, and I appreciated every page of it. So if you haven't read Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, if you haven't read Gillian Flynn, please just, if you like thrillers, look her up. Literally anything she's written will probably make you very happy. So the next book on my list is The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. And Ruth Ware is another one of those names, like, if you like thrillers, pick up one of her books. Honestly, she's great. And I've read a few of her books, but this one by far is my favorite. So we start with Hal, who is a tarot card reader. She's very poor. Her mother died when she was young. She gets a letter in the mail saying that someone in her family has died that she's never met, and they have a large estate, and they're going to read the will and all this other stuff. And she's like, obviously this was sent to the wrong person. But in the other part of her brain, she's like, these are really rich people, and I could just play this off and show up and at least make some money off of them. I know that's like, sounds really, really horrible, but she's extremely desperate. So she decides to go. And when she gets there, she realizes it's not really a mistake, but everything with this family is just like a mess. And apparently it's her family. So she just dives down the rabbit hole of this family and unraveling all of the lies and deceit and like bad juju that this family has accumulated over the decades. And she finds herself just kind of like stuck right in the middle of it. I really liked the pacing of this book because we're kind of jumping around between Hal and what's happening right now and what was happening in the past. I always really like stories that do that because I think it does a really good job of driving the plot. The characters in this book, I really liked. The cast was a little bit heavy, but everything that Ruth Ware did made up for the cast being heavy. I really liked the vibe of this book. Like, I just really liked the vibe of this book. We read it for my book club, and I just remember instantly being like, now this I'm gonna like. And I did. I did really like it. And Ruth Ware actually wrote like a little follow-up story, like a follow-up short story. Can't remember the name of it. I'll find it and I'll put it here. And it really sealed the story for me. Like, reading the little short story that she wrote after that made me love the book even more. So again, Ruth Ware, great thriller writer. I really enjoyed The Death of Miss Westaway, and I gave it 5 stars. It wrapped up beautifully. The short story that she wrote to accompany the book also made me love the story more. So yeah, there it is. Okay, the next book I'm going to talk about is The Whisper Man by Alex North. And this book was actually a little bit complicated for me for a thriller, but I ended up liking it a lot. So basically we're following a dad and his young son after they've lost, he's lost his wife, you know, the boy's lost his mother, and they've relocated, and they're really just trying to put their lives back together and kind of move on. And in the midst of all of this happening with them, the town that they live in has a serial child kidnapper in it. And yeah, that's basically it. The thing about this book is it's kind of a mixed genre book. Like, we have this very real abducting situation that's happening, like a kidnapper, serial killer type thing that's happening. Very real, very tangible. Then we have this other part of the story that is almost supernatural. And it's blending these two genres together that really make this book work for me. It really made it very stunning. I mean, I'd never quite read a book like this one. I thought at times the pacing was a little slow, but the ending completely made up for any of the issues that I had at the beginning of the book. I highly recommend this one. I know I didn't say very much about it, but I mean, I gave it 5 stars for a reason. It has all the creep factor of like a horror book, but all of the suspense of a thriller. So I think that Alex North really made something really special with this book. And I haven't read any of his other books, but you know, he's on my never-ending list of authors to look into more. Highly recommend this book, especially if you like horror. The last book on my top 5 thrillers is Shiver by Reynolds. This book blew my mind, okay? I read it last December. I think about this book all the time. Okay? It's set in the Alps, I think the French Alps, and it follows 5 snowboarders as they come together for like a reunion. In the past, all 5 of them, plus 2 other females, have competed together. They spent like a winter competing and training together to be professional snowboarders, that kind of thing. One of them goes missing. And so for years, they all just thought that something bad happened to her. She's somewhere on the mountain. And they all get these strange emails inviting them to come for a reunion, to get together and just, you know, be friends again. And then when they all get up there, they get stranded and they realize they don't know who sent them the invitations. And as we're up there, we're constantly jumping back and forth between what happened that winter that this girl went missing and what's happening right now, because someone has brought them all to this very remote location and says they know what happened to the girl that went missing and they know who's responsible, and whoever is responsible is at the resort. We jump back and forth between what actually happened, so we're like slowly getting the truth, and what's happening in real time, where they're trying to get off the mountain, they're trying to figure out, you know, what happened to this friend. And it's just a wild ride. The whole thing is just nonstop, high energy, exciting. The pace was brilliant. The twist at the end, wow, man, I did not see it. The whole time I'm sitting here like, okay, I figured it out. No, I had no idea. And I ran through so many scenarios in my head. I thought for sure, like, I've got it figured out. I know what happened. No, I didn't know it. You have to read the epilogue though. Okay, I know there are some people that don't read prologues and epilogues. How dare, okay? You have to read the prologues and the epilogues. How are y'all not reading those? For real. If you're one of those people that doesn't read prologues and epilogues, please explain yourself. I don't understand. If you read this book, Shiver, you have to read the epilogue. Promise me you'll read the epilogue, okay? Promise me. I will never quit recommending this book. This one just blew my mind, okay? So let's get into the honorable mentions. I won't get really in depth with these. I'm just going to kind of toss them up and explain a little bit why I like them and why I kept them. These are basically books that I really, really liked, but had little slight issues. Like I said, I'm kind of picky, so decided that they didn't deserve 5 stars, but I still really loved the book. Okay, so the first one is Dissent by Tim Johnston. This book. So this family goes on a little vacation up in the mountains somewhere. I'm sorry, I can't quite remember. But the daughter is like 16 or 17 and the son is like 13, 14, something like that. The daughter goes missing. Don't know. They went out for a run together. She didn't come back. And then this is just their whole descent. See what you did there. Off of her going missing, and like, is she going to turn up? Are they going to be able to find her? What really happened to her? And we're kind of jumping around between multiple stories of what's happening with everyone. I really liked this book. The reason I didn't give it 5 stars is because the ending, the ending was so good until the last couple pages when they were just kind of trying to play off what happened, and it didn't sit well with me. But the rest of the book was really, really good. This one goes in the honorable mentions because I really liked it. The next one we have is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. Y'all know how I feel about Riley Sager. Read his books. For real. Read his books, okay? I really loved this book. A girl goes to summer camp and one of the girls in her cabin goes missing. And like years later, they still haven't figured out what happened. And she ends up going back to the camp as an adult for like a reunion. Again, with these reunions, you know, somebody's gonna end up dead. She goes back and she's basically just like reliving what happened, and they're all trying to figure out what actually happened to this girl and everything. And it's wild. Just wild. Like, couldn't have predicted it. Classic Riley Sager. He always just like gets my head all turned around and I can't figure out which way is up. Excellent book. I think the reason I didn't give it 5 stars, I honestly can't remember. Because when I'm thinking about it now, I'm like, oh, I love that book. It was perfect. But obviously there was something in it that didn't quite let me give it the 5-star rating. However, I really liked it. I still really like Riley Sager's books. I constantly read him. So yeah, add this one to your list. The last honorable mention I have is The Good Girl by Mary Kubica. If you've not heard of Mary Kubica, please. I feel like I just say this all the time. Please read her books, okay? This book follows a young girl that gets abducted. She's not young. I think she's like college age. She's important though. Like she's like a senator's daughter or something like that. Maybe not a senator, but someone politically important, okay? She gets abducted and then they rescue her, they find her, and she can't remember anything. Like complete repression of what happened to her. And so throughout the book, we're jumping back and forth between her, what actually happened to her, and what's happening to her now as she's like trying to remember what happened to her. The ending, like, this book lives rent-free in my head all the time. I don't know why I didn't give it 5 stars. No, I do remember. This was back when I first started using Goodreads and I wasn't rating my books yet. So I did not rate this book, and that's why it didn't fall under 5 stars. I would say this is a 5-star read. And this is probably one of the first thrillers I ever read, like a long time ago before I really started reading seriously again as an adult. This was probably one of the first thrillers I ever read, and it blew my little brain, okay? So good. And I've read some of her other books, and this one still remains my favorite. Read it. Read it. Okay, that's all I really have for you guys today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you want me to talk about, what you don't want me to talk about. Do you have any books that you would add to your top 5 favorite thrillers? Have you read any of these books that I talked about? Do you have books that you think I would like? Please just interact any way you want to. I post every week, so I will see you next week. Thank you. Bye.